All our brothers and sisters, Merry Christmas, happy evening. So, green morning, green afternoon, green evening, wherever you are world over, we extend you a very warm welcome at 6:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and it is a Merry Christmas, Happy Christmas, and today is also birthday. आज जन्मदिन है भारत के पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी का। तो उनकी भी बहुत सारी यादें हमारे चेंबर के साथ जुड़ी हैं because I still recall in 2003 when we switched over. Earlier there used to be exclusively in India Punjabi Parvasi Divas from 1994, and then in 2003 with his vision there was a Bharati Parvasi Divas, and also 9th of January because it was Mahatma Gandhi ji who returned to India from South Africa on 9th of January 1915. So with these words, ladies and gentlemen, while extending a very hearty welcome to each one of you, pleasure to have all of you with us. We extend a very warm welcome to yet another very powerful evening. And we have got Iron Lady, very dynamic lady, Veena Raizada ma'am. She's the academic advisor with the Next Education. And she has done a remarkable work, a long journey to empower education ecosystem. As an elder brother, we send our blessings to her. She's doing a great job. And New Education Policy 2020, she's going to discuss with us empowering teachers and activity-based learning. Wow, because activity is very important, because once you have activity, then children enjoy quite a bit. So let's move International Chamber for Service Industries. So as you see, 1994 to 2003, it was an exclusive chamber to take care of the NRIs in India, and 2003 onward we started Bharati Parvasi Divas also. Already the 4 curtain raiser conferences have taken place, and now on 9th of January 2021 there is a virtual conference, Bharatiya Parvasi Divas. And good news is, now this slide we will be changing over. We have moved from 30 million to 31 million. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, making education relevant, we are organizing. This is the very big canvas. You see how many events we are organizing every week. It's uncountable, and unbelievable. Almost 26 to 27 events per week. Our chamber is active from morning 9 till evening 9, but today it's going to be till 9:30 or 9:45, because immediately after this webinar, I've got another program lined up from Doha, Qatar. Here it is, NRI's webinar today, that is at 8 p.m. And that is NRIs for Indian education. That will come advisory for parents, children exams. And don't forget, something very big is coming for all of us. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow, 2 days, I have got 2 more curtain raisers. That is in the afternoon at 12:30. And 28th, 29th, 30th and 31st, you are going to have the complete roadmap. Now you would say, what exactly is the roadmap? It's a future of education, future education, future education pedagogies, andragogies, creativity. Whatsoever we think about in education, how the future of education will be. 28th, we'll be talking about school education. 29th, we will talk about higher education. 30th, we will talk about skills and competencies. And 31st, we will talk about your startup, your entrepreneurship, your self-employment, and micro, small, and medium enterprise. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, future trends in education. That is 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st. Don't forget. And tomorrow and day after tomorrow, you can watch the curtain raiser, short, crisp, to the point. What exactly is the future of education, right? Basic food, basic health, basic education, B2B, back to basics. This is a complete compilation. And Napoleon Hill, 1908. Whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So let's come together. Let's make education relevant. This evening, as I made a mention to you, Madam is deeply associated with our chamber. We are proud that we have got her vision being shared with all of you. And this particular program is going live on YouTube, so you can see her complete profile and save that YouTube video also. And during her session, kindly keep posting your views of the session. If you want to post any suggestions, any idea, any questions, anything you have got related to this program, and let us see the active participation of all the audience this evening. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, join me in extending a very hearty welcome and a very warm welcome to Madam Veena Raizada ji. Namaskar.
Namaskar, sir.
Merry Christmas, Happy Christmas, and blessings from brother. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
So let's have, ma'am, the journey, and let's have your vision, because you're always there to, basically empower the entire education ecosystem. And while empowering teachers, let us talk about activity based learning. Now, nobody will talk about teaching, remember that. Talk about only learning, learning, learning. Everything is learning. Okay, let's go ahead, man.
Namaskar, good evening to everyone, from all those who have joined us on YouTube right now. It's my pleasure to be part of Dr. Sharma's platform and sharing the views of my professional journey of 40 plus years as on date. I started my teaching career in 1977, established 3 institutions from grassroots levels, and then 1 decade in digital content development company. So that with that experience, whatever I share today, it comes from my heart. It's not some theoretical that I talk about, but what I have lived through, what I have worked through. So it's my pleasure wishing you all Merry Christmas and very happy stepping into 2021. May Santa bring loads of good health to the mankind. May we all have a very peaceful world all around and happiness all around. With that, I'm going to share my screen. And
Is there, ma'am? We can go ahead.
yes, sir.
Is there?
So Merry Christmas 2020, December 2020 to everyone. May we all be blessed with loads and loads of good health. May we step into 2021 with happiness, peace all around. So today I'm going to share with all of you my ideas, my experiences and activities that I have learned all through and shared with my teachers and worked with them as a team member. So today's theme, empowering educators, activity-based learning. So very rightly, Dr. Sharma has added the words learning, 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 because as an educator also we need to learn. We need to learn. And I keep repeating these lines that we need to learn which is relevant. Unlearn that is redundant, not required, because the world is changing so fast. Technology is sweeping the world around in every aspect of life. Therefore, we need to unlearn which is not required, which is not relevant, and learn something that is relevant for ourselves as well as in our teaching learning processes, so that we can prepare our children for the world of tomorrow, where there is so much of uncertainty of what it is going to be. And that is why we call it a VUCA world. But I have realigned VUCA also as that why not we have we as vision that we have for our children, vision for ourselves as lifelong learners. and you for understanding what we are looking forward to. What do we want for our children? What do we want for the mankind? What does the mankind wants for oneself to be happy and prospering? Then see the clarity of thoughts, clarity of actions, so that we know what we are heading for. So goal setting clarity is very important. And the last alphabet A, let's be adapting, let's be accessible, let's be doing something that is required for the current scenario, because current scenario is still a difficult time for all of us, especially the children are still not back to the school, and we are eagerly looking forward to those moments when we hear the laughter of our children in the school corridors. So let's hope that we will be having that soon. Now, as I start with this, is a very important quote of John Dewey. He says that we do not learn from experience, but we learn from reflecting on our experience. So, a sense of growing as lifelong learners is experiential pedagogy. Now, pedagogy means the whole art and science of teaching learning process. What we want to teach, how we want to teach, how do we want to ensure that our children are coming along with the skills and competencies and knowledge and expertise that we are looking forward to. So as I start, I'm just going to show you something. All of you, I think, can look at this. I have made by paper folding a two boards joined by one anchor, and it's a single piece. So as you work through this, please keep on trying to make this, that how will you make. So this is one activity thought that I leave you with, is that how do you make a board, single paper, single board we have already been making, but this is the new idea, the creation or creativity thought, that how do you have a board, two boards joined together and a single piece unit. I hope everybody has got it. So say right yes in your system that we are going to have the paper folding. I hope everybody can see that. It's a paper folding activity, and you got to make two boards from the same paper which are anchored in the center. So let's see who gets made it at the end of the session. We'll come back to this thought once again. So how do you start your lesson in the classroom, learning process in the classroom, so that child is pondering over, thinking over, and relating to what you are doing in the classroom? This is how we would be flowing with the session today. We'll try to understand what is activity-based learning. I'm sure many of us know it already, but maybe a little bit of more clarity would be added to our thoughts. Why do we think ABL is important? ABL is activity-based learning. How could we plan it? And very important is, what is the role of an educator for an effective ABL? How do we incorporate higher order thinking skills, HOTS, in activity-based learning? And sure enough, I will be working and showing all of you whatever tools and techniques we can use as part of activity-based learning in our learning environments. So John Dewey's very famous lines: give the pupils something to do, not something to learn. That means we should be manipulating or doing something with the concrete stuff, concrete material. Give the pupils something to do, not something to learn. And the doing is of such a nature as to demand thinking. So whatever you are giving to the child, manipulatives, paper folding, or anything to be done, that should lead the child to a process of thinking, and learning will automatically result. So it is that kind of environment that you provide to the child, that he is thinking over and thinking beyond thinking. That is metacognition. Learning beyond learning. Learning beyond learning means the structural knowledge that is already given in the books, the basic formulas. Beyond that means, how do we create something? How do we apply? How do we analyze? So the whole process of Bloom's taxonomy, as an educator, each one of us needs to be clear of. Now I'm going to discuss that activity-based planning. What are the 4 phases? How do you plan an activity? I've seen as a principle that all our teachers do tremendous work. They do loads of activities. But what is it that will make that activity an effective activity? Then activity that will focus on what we do. And apart from that, multi-purposes of the same activity, multiple skills learning outcomes out of that activity, that will be the fruitfulness of an activity. So as we go along the session, I would try to demonstrate that this is what we can do, extension of that single sheet activity to multiple purposes. How do we do that? So what is the first phase of activity based planning? Please write in the chat if you think there is something very special that you are aware of. So I would learn from you. So what is the first phase that you think is for activity-based planning? It's always good to work in 4 quadrants, 360-degree review of whatever we are doing. So try to concise your thoughts always in 4 quadrants, because that is 360-degree review or view or processing of whatever actions you are doing. So anybody writing, please keep checking, sir, that we have 4 phases are there. So first phase that we talk about is
Sure, sure.
action planning, activity planning. Anybody writing that? Pre-activity planning.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Pre-activity planning means before you think of doing an activity, what do you do? So I've tried to again put all the pointers in one by one. Goal means smart goal setting. I'm sure everybody knows, still I will repeat. Smart means specific learning outcome. That could be M for measurable, A for achievable, R for realistic, and T for time bound. So whatever you are planning, that has to have a goal that is a SMART goal. The second one is specific learning outcomes. Now these learning outcomes, once again I'm repeating that they should be in the form of subject specific skills. All of us can look at the NCERT document, which has come out as learning outcomes in all subjects, right from kindergarten to grade 8. So pre-activity phase means you are, apart from the resources that you need, that everybody gets it, what is more important to make this activity an effective one is smart goal setting, specific learning outcome, and skill-based approach to whatever you are doing. In any time, whatever you are doing, focus should always be on honing skills, enhancing skills, developing and nurturing the innate potential of the child. The second phase of the child activity planning is that what will you do during the activity? When the children are doing the activity, what will you be doing as an educator? So our goal is observation of the children. If it is a group activity, how the children are participating in that particular group, how they are communicating, how is the behavior response to the questions and answer, who is leading, who is not participating, who is silent, who is being leader, who is being follower. So those are the kinds of observation you are taking for every child. Then you are focusing only on learners behavior. You are not interrupting, you are not doing anything unless the child has a problem and he asks for a prompt. So only then you are being a facilitator. So approach of you is being a facilitator in this process. Then third is the post activity. We thought of doing an activity. Now the activity was going on. Now the activity is over. So post activity action is that what is the goal? Did we evaluate? So how do we evaluation of learning outcomes? So how we have made the criteria of evaluation? What are the rubrics? What are the indicators? And then what is the gap? So we are trying to find out, our focus in after the activity is that are there any learning gaps, because whatever I expected from this activity and where the children have performed, is it at par or is there some difference between the two? Or there may be cases where children go beyond that, and you're surprised to see that, oh my god, the children can do beyond that also. So that actually gives you a feedback on your own teaching learning process. So how do you give a concrete feedback? How do you give one-to-one feedback for some children, and how to give a common feedback to the class? So you got to identify that who needs individual and what are the points which are common to the whole class. And the last phase, which is the most important one, as per John Dewey also, the reflections on what you have done. So goal is reformative plan. If you have found that there are bridging gaps, the learning gaps need to be bridged, then we got to work individually for that. What are the plans for that? And how do I make a differentiated learning plan? That means addressing the learner styles. So the basic minimum that every teacher needs to do is the work style, where it is visual activity, where it is audio activity, where there's read and write, and the last one is kinesthetic one. So this is the minimum. If we can add on the Harvard Gardner's intelligences in our plan, there's nothing like it. That will be super plan for us. But basic minimum which every teacher, every educator needs to work upon is that we have the work learning style being integrated into our learning process. Now, Cope's cycle, everybody is aware of, but here what I'm discussing is the role of an educator in that experiential learning cycle that we have been using. So again, it is 4 quadrant. Either you are a subject expert, or you are a facilitator, or you are a coach, or you are a standard setter and evaluator. And on both the axes you see, on the top of the vertical axis you see it is a learner focus, and on the top of the vertical axis y-axis you see the subject focus. On x-axis on the left side you see the action focus, and on the right side you see the meaning focus. So in the first quadrant, the green one, when there's a focus on learning learner, and then when there's a focus on meaning, or you are more working like a facilitator. So there are 4 roles of an educator. They are called as the educator's role profile as in the experiential cycle. So when subject expert, when you have a meaning focus and you are in the blue quadrant, you are like a subject expert. And when you are in the red quadrant, you are talking of standards that should be achieved by each one of us. And when you are in the yellow one, you are talking about how do you coach the child, how do you coach the learning process. So these 4 roles of an educator in an activity based learning, in an experiential learning, are the things. Now as a teacher you can't be only one, so you have to see your situation, that which role you need to be in at what time. And there was a survey that was done for different 4 roles. As you can see the small pie graph on the left side, that coach is 31%, means you are training the children to solve the problems on their own. You are giving them conditions. 28% is facilitator. When you are giving the prompts, you are helping them out, you have a dialogue with them, you have a personal relationship with them. So interpersonal relationships of yours with the children count. And as a subject expert, it is only 22%. And please note it down that evaluation standards are only 19%. So you have to see as a teacher, what is your role, in which role you have to be, and at what time. That is what will make your experiential learning, activity-based learning as an effective one. Then how does the learning process progresses for the higher order thinking skills? Because the lower 3 levels, I'm sure each one of us are doing the structured learning, the processes that have been going on, rote learning processes, dependency on textbooks, learning this stuff as it is and reproducing that in the examination has already been going on. Now it is time for us to look at the higher processes. So how do you give the opportunities for exploring? The pointers are written out there. How do you help the children to create? Then again, the points are given. How do you make them share? exchange and express the ideas to the world around, to the unit around. So how do you orient the children? How do you enhance their processes, and how do you help them synthesize? So all three higher order thinking skills, they are connected to each other. So take these pointers, orientate. How do you do the orientation of your children? How do you help them enhance whatever they are doing? And how do you really create an environment where they are able to show their product to an authentic audience to get an concrete feedback, something that will make them realize that do we need to rework, go back to the starting point, redefine our problem, redefine our processes, and work it all over once again. So you are aligning your learning process as per the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Three domains there: cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy, affective domain of Bloom's taxonomy, and psychomotor. At the moment, we are talking about cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy and the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. And if we are educated, if we are learning well, it must show into the transformation of our behavior according to that. And that is the second domain of Bloom's taxonomy as affective domain. Next, this activity-based teaching learning process could also be transformed as problem-based learning. The step-wise progression, I have shown it to you on the diagram. So it is this, when you take up the process with a problem, then it becomes learner-centered. And that is probably the call of the times, that how do we create learner-centered learning, learner-centered processes. You can, how do you start? The first point, look at the pointers given there. And how do you do the initial diagnosis? Means how do you make the teams, the groups of your children? How do you do the grouping? That's very important. To which group you assign what kind of work, and how that group alignment with each other is there. Therefore, you have to ensure that your group formation is according to certain criteria about the children that you are aware of. Once again, you can do that only when you know your children very well. Then let them explore, let them investigate, let them research, let them find out the data, let them prepare everything. And then they come back to the last pointer, shared understanding. So how do you define a problem? How do you assign it to the groups? How do they go for exploring? And how do they then come back and express and show it up to the people, to the audience for concrete feedback? So when you talk of problem-based learning, it becomes a learner-centered education. Now, from here onwards, I would be sharing with all of you the tools and techniques for activity-based learning. So before I start, I want, if possible, all of you have a sheet of paper with you and a pen to keep on going along with me. I'm giving you 30 seconds to get a sheet of paper and a pen, so that whatever I am doing on the screen, you can also be doing it side by side. That will help you in, instead of just looking at the screen, also do it side by side along with you. I hope all ready. Dr. Sharma, आप भी ले लीजिए.
हाँ जी मैं ले रहा हूँ जी.
Okay, so the first thing, that is something very common that I'm going to show it to all of you, that can be used even in the rural areas, tier 2 and tier 3 areas, for teaching tool as an activity. And Dr. Sharma, आप भी ले लीजिए. Oh.
नहीं वो मैं
This is a very common quote, that tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. So I want all of you to be involved in this process of demonstrations, doing it along with me, so that you are experiencing what I am trying to demonstrate myself. Say yes in the chat box if you are ready for that. All of you, please have a sheet of paper. And so something very common I want to ask in all of you, have you ever used calendar as an activity tool? The normal calendar as an activity, right? Yes, in the chat box, if you have been using it And whatever extra from whatever I show, if you are doing that, please let me know in the chat box so that I can also be learning from your experiences. So here we go with that activity. All of you can look at this calendar. Now this is learning fun for all. There are multiple ways of using this calendar, which I'm going to demonstrate to all of you. Anything that you can come up with? So let's look at the first activity. If you make a 2 by 2 matrix on that calendar, I have marked 6, 7 and 13, 14 on this. Tell me what can you observe? And if you observe it carefully, you will find that the diagonally opposite numbers add up to the same number 20. 13 plus 7 is 20, 14 plus 6 is 20. And check it out now for the 3 by 3 matrix. Check out the numbers along the diagonals. Keep writing in the chat box, what do you find out of this? And if you are doing it carefully along with me, you will find that the sum of the extreme corner numbers added and divided by 2, the average is to the number in the center of those two diagonals. So 23 plus 11, 34, half of it is 17. 25 plus 9 is 34, half of it is 17. You can try it out for any 2 by 2 matrix and any 3 by 3 matrix. So how do you teach the children, even a grade 1 child, that when you have 2 rows and 2 columns, it is called a matrix, which we use the word in almost in 11th and 12th class. 3 by 3 matrix. Now I have shown you this. The next exploring point for the students would be that try it out for 4 by 4 matrix. How many 2 by 2 matrices you can have? How many 3 by 3 matrices you can have in a calendar? And is something relationship found between 4 by 4 matrix in your calendar? Okay, so next, if you look at any vertical column, which I have shown you from 5 to 26, what is it that you noted down? That it is progression by number 7. 5 plus 7, 12, 12 plus 7, 19, 19 plus 7, 26. So it could also be called as a sequence pattern which increases by 7. Look at the horizontal number, vertically up number. Again, you will find the same. So how you are focusing on fundamental operations of addition and subtraction. When you go downwards, you are adding. When you go upwards, you are subtracting. So fundamental operations for the junior classes, how they are focused upon, this is such a simple calendar activity. Now look at the horizontal line. What can you find it out for the senior classes? If you add up all the numbers, what will you get? First of all, you get a series that is increasing by number 1. Sequence is increasing by 1. 26 plus 1, 27 plus 1, 28 plus 1. That is one aspect. How could you relate it to arithmetic progression in the class 9th and 10th? This is what can be done with a simple calendar like this. Okay. How can we use further this calendar? You can see the next one. Now, how can you relate statistics with this? If there are 7 numbers in the line that is shown out there, you will find that average of all those 7 numbers is 22. So add 19 plus 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 and divide by 7, you will get the average 22. But if there are 6 numbers in the line, how will you find the average? If you find this average, it will be 28.5. That means the center 2 numbers, add them up and divide by 2. So how are you using even statistics, mean and in both these lines for class 9th and 10th children? How can you make arithmetic progression? How can you show these statistical procedures with such a simple calendar activity? Now look at that thing that I have drawn as arrows. How can you teach the children? Senior classes, you can teach them the arithmetic progression where the series is increasing by 2. For junior children, you can teach them skip counting by 2. So it depends upon where you are using this calendar. This calendar can be used right from kindergarten to grade 10. You can see all these numbers that are being shown there. And how about vertical stuff? I'm just showing you by the arrows that I have shown it to you. So you can do multiple things for conceptual maths with the help of a calendar. So do you think this is the only thing? But this process, when we give them a calendar which is already dated, we are probably teaching them. So this is used as a learning tool by the children when you are asking them to look at that numbers the way I have done it with you, and they are learning the concepts. Now, how do I go for evaluating? So if I wish to evaluate, we take a blank calendar. So you can tell the children, if the first of the month starts with Wednesday, when do you think 29th of the month would be? So if the child, so it is the process of check your understanding. Now we are checking whether children have understood the processes or not. Because he should remember that 1 to downwards, we will come in the same vertical column in the increasing order of 7. So if he knows that, he would be able to tell that 29th would be here. Sorry, it should be in the lower block, I think. Yes, my mistake, it has gone there. Never mind. So you can keep questioning then. Then if first is Wednesday, when do you think the first Sunday would be? So this time the child is actually working through his mind process in order to mark the question. So as an educator, you have to be ready with the questions which I discussed yesterday. Also, it is the art of making questions that makes the learning process powerful. So you keep on making question, when will the second Saturday come? When will the fourth Saturday come? So as you keep on making those processes, when will be the third Tuesday? It is the way you make questions that will make the process of evidence of learning by the learners. And that is what probably confirms that they have learned the basic concept that we were trying to teach in the previous slides. Now, is that all? It is only for maths? Let's relate this calendar to science now. What do you think you can do with the science? Any guesses? Please write it down in the chat box as I go to the next slide. These are the various things that I had written the question, so you can just do that. Okay. I have taken the calendar of September 2020 and look at this, how we can explore science with it. And this I have called it as moon magic. You know how moon completes a complete circle in a month. So how do you teach the children how the phases of moon are changing? So you have taught them, because everything is written, the name, the last quarter, first quarter, full moon, no moon, new moon, everything has been written. So this is now a learning process by the child, because you tell a child, look at 4th September, look at 11th September, look at 17th September. So you are making the child focus on those areas where you have these questions ready for, because now it is a learning process by looking at something which is already labeled. Now, how do I check my understanding, the evidence of learning? So what do you think I can do to the calendar now? So I go to the format where phases are written, but names are not written. Now the children would be expected to, first simplest process could be write down the names of different phases of the moon. Or you could ask them, what is the name of the phase of 17th September? Sorry, this is the calendar for December. So 17th December. So how your question style changes to check understanding evidence of learning by the student. So again and again, the focus has to be competency of framing questions by the teachers, so that the learning process, when you are trying to give instructions and when you are evaluating the learning outcomes, how you are framing those questions as per Bloom's taxonomy, the 7 levels that we talk about: knowledge, understanding, application, analysis, inference, and synthesis. So those levels have to be part of your questioning. So if you have to go to the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy, you have to be aware of that the basic concepts, basic information, basic knowledge up to the level of application has been learnt by the child. Now, do you think there is any other use of calendar even now? If there is one, please do write it in the chat box. Let me show it how it can be used. I'm just giving you an example. You can explore it further. Calendar as a teaching tool this month in social science. You can talk about history, you can talk about geography, you can talk about economy and journal knowledge. Simple question. I think everybody knows 25th December today is Jesus Christ's birthday. And something that I have marked 22nd December. What do you think? This was a recent phenomena only, the recent event, recent something that we all talked about. 22nd December, the birthday of Indian mathematician Srinivas Ramanujan. And even more prominent event happened on 21st December. Any guesses? Please write it down. This definitely I want you to write it down because this was something that was talked over all over the Google, all across the globe. Any answers coming up there, sir?
I'm just checking.
21st,
Just checking.
21st December, I can give you a hint. That was a stargazer event. That was a stargazer event. So it was Jupiter and Saturn coming together. How the world was stuck for stargazing on that particular night across the globe. So how do you make the children mark those dates? And what do you think 31st December was? Oh, sorry, 31st December would be. I think it is birthday of one of the, I'm just not getting it right now because I just can connect it, but you can check it out. 31st December is birthday of someone. I think I think it was Edison who demonstrated first time the electric bulb. And on 19th of December, it was first publication by Benjamin Franklin of some book that was sold for 10,000 copies per year. So how do you make your children aware of and proud of the achievements of the people who have done so much to give us what we have today? So how calendar as a simple piece of paper could be used like this? For science, for social science, how can you talk about the time zones? How can you talk about the longitudes and latitudes? How can you talk about southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere? How can you talk about, when you're talking about the moon, the formation of day and night, rotation of the moon around the earth and the combination around the sun? There are so many things that one could relate and make the children do those things on the calendar. So calendar is one of the wonderful tools that can be used right from grade kindergarten to grade 10. Are we happy for this? Please write down yes if you are finding, or if you have any suggestion for that, do share it on the chat box so that I can also learn after reading the comments from there that what else I could add in the next class that I do with my educators. Now, this is something that relates to the experiential cycle of codes that I discussed right in the beginning, where we talked about the role of the educator. What is the role of the educator that we talked about in 4 quadrants? So how this is for the junior classes, a simple experiment. How do I do it? And then what the child is observing. And then he has a question, what happens next? And now what? So from here, I would first like to stop sharing and do certain activities so that everybody can have a look at that. Now, please have a look that, Sharma sir, aa jaiye abhi aap bhi. So I have this time now the orange in my, there is no water, nothing. Now
This is
you
my
have to, you
this is
have
my
to
favorite. This is my
favorite.
favorite.
Okay, now if I have this in my hand, and you have to tell me, will it remain there at the bottom or will it float if I add water to it now? So I'm this time adding water, adding water to it. So if I add water, look, you have to look at that. I'm adding water just to save my laptop also, but however, I've kept everything ready.
It will float.
It will float. So how do you help the children? Now again, you look at it, it is not even fully submerged. So how do you teach the children even the concept of submerged, half submerged, semi-submerged? So how do you start this activity? That children, I have an orange that is kept in an empty jar, and tell me and make a guess, make an hypothesis that when I add water to it, will it float or will it sink? So they will have an opinion. Then I will add water and then they will observe. So I am doing the demo, they are observing. Now you have to have what next? Now the next question could be, if I add salt to this water, do you think it will still float higher? Do you think the submerged portion of the orange will become less? So that is how you put the child into a thinking mode. That is how you ensure that your children are learning beyond learning. Now the second part that I have is, now you have seen that when the orange was there and we put the water, it floats. Now I'm going to peel off an orange and then now put it in the water. Now make a guess, will it float or will it sink? Now again, now this time I have another jar that has water. Now tell me, make a guess, will it float or will it sink? So whatever your answer is, keep writing that, and now look at this, what I'm putting and what happens to this. Right? Now the next question would be, what will happen if I add the peas to water? So add the peas to the water and then see what is happening. So child is doing along with you. Child is observing also what you are doing. So the basic process of I do, you do, and we all do. So these three processes, these three words, I, you, and we, could be done anyway. Number one could be, you all are doing, then you are doing individually, and then we are doing all together. Or we all together do it, we all try it out, and then we give our suggestions, then we individually try it out, and then we say, yes, I can do it. So as an educator, I can keep on reviewing the process. Another activity that I want to show all of you today is, this is new one. Sir, you haven't seen this, so you got to look at this now. Now, all of you can see that I have 2 glasses of colored water in my hand, right? So you can talk about language, you can talk about anything. So I have 2 glasses. One is dark colored, one is light colored. Now my question is, we are teaching the children the mixing of colors. So we take a palette and we start mixing. But I want you to tell me that without using anything, you can't pour it from here to there. You can't use spoons. How will you transfer liquid from this glass to this glass? What are the possible options? What possible things can you do? The whole idea is, as an educator, you might be knowing it. But the question is how to make the child put into a state of thinking, put into a state of learning. Any answers? How do you think you can do it? So keep on thinking and then do tell me in the chat box that how will you have these two liquids being mixed into the third one, but you can't pour the liquid from one into the other. You can't use any other medium at all. So what is it that you will use in order to ensure that it automatically transfers into the center one and you have a new mixture coming up for all of you? I'm sure many of the teachers must be knowing it. And how this simple experiment for junior children is only mixing of colors, and for senior classes, it will be process of osmosis. So any simple experiment is not meant for, I just keep the glasses down. So if you haven't got the answers, let me tell you that you will have a tissue roll. Make the roll of that, put one into the one glass, and in the center you will have a third glass, and put these strips and both of them into the middle one. And if you leave that overnight, next day morning when the children would come, you can use a cotton also, nothing but anything else. But next day morning when the children come, they will see the center glass filled with a new color. And this, each one of them having a color of the glass in which it was put. So senior classes, we talk about osmosis process, how it's has the water absorbed by it, and how do we do it. So the whole concept of these small experiments is to put the child into a thinking process, to ask questions. Now, how do you use manipulatives? I would like to show you here something, that we have puzzles. Now, this puzzle is of, there are pieces that can be taken out and just taken some. So this puzzle is of human skeleton. So in the junior classes, you can ask the children to fit each piece and name that piece as an activity, because now it is manipulatives in your hand. You are having something to do, something to explore with. So what if I say put lungs? So he has to put up the lungs piece and put it out there, because now the shapes are given. It might be easier for the child to complete this skeleton type. But in addition to this, we have a plate on which the body of the human being is drawn. And there are no partitions of these different parts. Now I tell the child, place the heart in the right place. Place the lungs in the right place. Now it will be check your understanding. Have you understood? Do you know that or not? Then you will understand that the child, because this might be easier for the child because he has this, all the pieces. But when he has to put on only blank skeleton. So there were children who were doing the experiment also, that they made their friends lie down, draw the outline of the body on the ground, and then they started putting approximately where the heart would be, where the skull would be, where the knees would be, because after looking at that, probably it was easier for them to understand the concept of different parts of the skeleton. So how do you put your children with these simple activities into learning process that is inquiry based, that is experience based, that is exploring? So the 5 E's that you have is give them the time to experiment and explore. Then give them the time to exchange their ideas with each other. Then give them the time to express that thing beyond what they have learned out of this summer. One more experiment I will just want to show you, only for the purpose of showing, which again all of you know that. I'm not burning the candle, but I'm sure each one of us have grown up watching this experiment, that when I put water here and when the candle is burning and put it, so water will rise. This is what. So we used to tell the children, the candle is drinking water. It used to be so much of fun for the child. Oh, candle drinks water because the water rises. So we used to say, candle has drunk the water. So today we will watch that candle is drinking water. Now my question is of the next level. It is not, it doesn't finish here. So how do I talk about chemistry, the burning of candle, wax, the weed, whatever is happening to it? How do I talk of physics, the air pressure, the water, everything talked around, right? So you can relate it to science, you can relate it to physics, you can relate it to chemistry, you can relate it to language. That how do I write the process of what ma'am was doing? How do I learn the process of note making? Now my question is, you can do it with 2 candles or 3 candles. Number one, if I put 2 candles, do you think the water rise will be double of the first time or half of the first time? If I put 3 candles of the same size, will it be 3 times or 1/3? And if I put 3 different kind of candles and still repeat the process, which one do you think will get extinguished first? That is first question. And how do you think the proportion of water will be changing, the water level that rises? So the question is, how do I make as a teacher, as an educator, the questions, the format, the exploring thought process which can put the child into a thinking process? Because that is what is very important. That is what is required for skill-based learning, competency-based learning, knowledge, because knowledge, skills, and abilities combined together will produce competency-based education. So it is very, very important for all of us as educators to focus on Bloom's taxonomy, to focus on higher order thinking skills, to focus on cognitive domains, to focus upon metacognition, so that we are sharpening, honing, enhancing their skills. They are, they are there. The question is, we have to give the learning environment in which we are able to do that. You may call this process as an inquiry-based process also. So I hope you all enjoyed
Thank,
watching this, and we'll go back to sharing out the screen.
thank you. Ma'am, knowledge, skill, and
Abilities.
abilities. Okay. We have got 2 more minutes, ma'am.
Oh, so I'll have to rush through.
Yeah,
Never mind. So we just show that. So we have this experiment which we saw just now. And then the ease that we're talking about. How do you engage the children? How do you explore? How do you explain? How do you elaborate? How do you evaluate? And how do you express? This is the higher level, the candle experiment that I showed you. This is for the high. How do you give the concrete experience of what happened? Then you reflect. What did I experience? Then you have conceptualization. Why did this happen? And then you apply. What can I do with this? Now, this is something probably I can just skip it over, but something that's very important that I would like to show all of you is this visual thinking strategies. Now, what are visual thinking strategies? Means how do I read an image? What kind of, so show a relevant visual and ask the following question. What is going on in this picture? What do you see that makes you say that? And what more can we find it out? So how do you enhance the skills of intense observation? How do you enhance the skills of justification and logical reasoning? And if they can't do it, go beyond and observe again. So I'm showing you a picture here. Anybody who can make a guess of what it is. And if you are saying it is that, why do you say so? Any guesses coming out there, sir? I wish I could interact and then see to it, but however, I'm just going it ahead with the I have tried to put all the pictures of nuclear reactor, and the hint is given in the last where I've written fission reaction and fusion reaction. So if you can see that, probably you'll be able to identify that I'm showing all nuclear reactors. The next question could be, which all nuclear reactors can you see? If they are all Indian, where they are. So name the nuclear reactors, name the places they are there, right? Now, this is something which probably is exclusively masterpiece tool, this concept sketches. So how do you make a visual descriptive tool? So what does it do? You have a sketch diagram where you mark everything. And then how do you do it? Visual and textual presentation, because up till now we have been doing only the labeling of diagrams. So it is one step beyond, two step beyond the labeling of a diagram. And in the end, last one, so it is what, how, and skills. Understanding, comprehension, recapitulation, and retention. So I'm just going to show you simple examples of photosynthesis which the lower class children would be using. So you can look at this. This is more than labeling of a diagram. So look at this, how this changes for a senior class. Look at this, how it changes for transpiration of plant. So it is not labeling of the diagram, but it is describing. So if a child has a concept sketch, probably for him to recapitulate, revise, and learn and validate and have an evidence of his learning is well. You could use this as an assessment sheet by putting out all blanks out there where I have written the description of that. Look at this, how teacher has made it for me. Look at this. If the child has this kind of diagram, it is beyond labeling. So concept sketches are something that are as learning tool for all the children. So this is now finally the recap. This time I have given the recap in the form of a mind map, because mind map is another tool to have recapitulation and visual presentation of whatever you have done. This can be used as an index of a notebook. This can be used as a lesson planning. This can be used as a teaching tool. This has got multi-purpose uses. So here, if you can see, I have explained in the center the complete cycle that we talked about. Then we have talked about the skills also. Then we have also talked about the different kinds of learners also. The next recap is, how do I assess? So evidence of learning, I have written the name, the reference of the blog. This is a beautiful read, and everyone must go back and read this blog. If you can read it, you will really have the fun of knowing that even at engineering level conference, people are talking about learning processes. How do I learn? What are the evidences of learning? And how assessments are a tool for learning, both for the teacher and for the student. Teacher would be able to analyze, am I a competent teacher? Is my process of delivering my curriculum lesson plan with the student with a particular purpose of learning is making sense or not? And the final slide, the new term that I had learned some time back is pattern assessment. The people say, no, always compete with yourself and think, are you a better today than what you were yesterday? It is that kind of assessment. It's process of comparing a student's performance against his or her own previous performance. So compete with yourself. Be better every day than yesterday. Be better than every moment of the day, the previous moment. That is what is the process of learning continuum. And this graphic, whosoever prepared it, is from the same blog. I have written the reference below. Please go back and read about this conference that's been written in this blog. And it's a beautiful read. And there are other blog items also on that, which make a lot of sense for we all as educators. So how do you do assessment one? You give a feed forward and you have assessment two. Again, you give feedback comparing assessments one and two. Then you have a feed forward, you have assessment three. And how do you give a feedback comparing assessment? So that is how the learning progression, learning map, learning curve of a child is enhanced. And it gives me so much of happiness of having shared whatever I wish next time I'll use the 10 grams also and the sticks also that I had kept on my side to demonstrate. However, constraint of the time puts me out there. Thank you, Dr. Gulshan Sharma, for giving
Thank
me
you,
this opportunity. And my heart is filled with joy and happiness having
ma'am.
shared with whatever I have shared with all my educators on this line today. And wishing you a very, very happy Merry Christmas and happy stepping into 2021. May all be stay safe, blessed, protected, and loved by all around. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. We reciprocate the same for you and everybody who is associated with you. And our deepest greetings